So, the study of the Bhagavad Gita is something that is very, very auspicious and very wonderful. Uh, because the Bhagavad Gita is sometimes our first book in Krishna consciousness. And Krishna consciousness is so vast, so deep. We sometimes feel that, oh, maybe Bhagavad Gita is like the easy book or the ordinary book. And all the other books are the deep one, because Prabhupada said, Gita is the first book. It's like the bachelor's. Bhagavatam is like the master's. Chaitanya Charitamrita is like the PhD. However, as we will see in the Gita Mahatmya, it is described that how the Bhagavad Gita contains everything, all the knowledge of the Bhagavatam, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, of every spiritual book in the world. It's in cryptic form because the Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita expand on those themes. But the Bhagavad Gita has everything in it because it is the words of Krishna. And Krishna's direct words can never be incomplete, can never be not the highest thing. They must be the highest thing. And that's why Srila Prabhupada, all of our acharyas, our spiritual masters, have told us to study the Gita very deeply, to not just study, to memorize it, to repeat it, and to share it with others, right? So, I remember when I would be with my spiritual master, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. Sometimes he would ask us, so what are you reading? And I would say, I'm reading Bhagavatam, and someone else would say, I'm reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he would always tell us, you should read Bhagavad Gita. Or he would say, read Gita also. He was always very keen that we read the Bhagavad Gita. And what's very interesting is that when we did something that was really bad or wrong, maybe we made an offense or something, in addition to taking the other steps that are needed to rectify that, he would tell us, read a chapter of the Gita. Because reading the chapter of the Gita, reading the Bhagavad Gita is immensely purifying to the heart and to the soul. And so he used to tell us, read a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Like one time, my Guru Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, had over 250 Shaligram Shilas that he would travel. He would travel with all of his Shilas. And one time in serving the Shilas, the table where the Shilas were placed, sometimes you have wobbly tables or a uneven floor. So the table moved. It like went up and down like that, like tables sometimes do if you don't have a steady table. And that was the table that he was doing his puja on. So the table moved, and I was preparing things for him, just we would wipe them and prepare things so that when he came, he would do the worship of Shaligram Shilas, of his 250 Shaligram Shilas, and Govardhan Shilas also, all the Gornitai. So when the table shifted, one of the Shilas right at the edge fell off the table and it broke in half. So he was not there that time. I was there, so it was my fault. I broke his Shila, basically. Though it was the table's fault, but it was my fault because I broke it. So after that, I was very, very, devastated. I thought that, maybe I, might just burn to ashes when he comes. I broke his deity, his Shila, one of his Shilas. And so he came and he saw what happened. He was very grave. And he said, you should go to Janani Vasprabhu. And he was in Mayapur at that time. And he said, ask him how to do this, how to, So we took the Shaligram Shila and we went to Janani Vasprabhu. And Janani Vasprabhu had seen this happen before. And he's, a pujari from the spiritual world. So he took super glue and he glued the two Shilas back together and he put them nicely and we brought them back. And Maharaj placed it back on his table. But then I asked him, what should I do? Because, okay, the Shila is together now, but how to rectify the offense? It's a big offense. So he said, read a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I still remember, he said, read a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So by reading the Gita, also the offenses within our heart, the offenses within our soul, the inauspicious things, our past karmas, they all go away. So this study will help in all of those things, and most importantly, it awakens love for Krishna. It will awaken our love for Krishna, and that is why today we are starting with the reading of the Bhagavad Gita. So the way we try to do this is we try to do one chapter a week. The exceptions are there with long chapters. And also today, since it's the first day, we have many introductory things to cover before we come to chapter 1. So the attempt is that we do a chapter a week, which means we meet once a week. So that's a chapter a day. But if we're short of time, we may split that chapter into 2 weeks. And last time I remember we split quite a few chapters in 2 weeks because it's very, very vast, the Gita. It has 700 verses, which is not that much actually, but still it's a lot, 700 verses. The Bhagavatam has 18,000 verses. So our schedule will be basically 18 chapters for the 18 weeks. After today's session, I will share the homework. And we may have attended many sessions on the Gita, but this is designed to be an in-depth study. So you have the homework to go deeper in. And the main part of the course, always, as I always mention, is to read the chapter, right? All these courses are simply ways of excuses for us to study Srila Prabhupada's books. So the homework, the lecture, everything is there just to give us impetus to read. So that's the best part, is reading the chapter, which you will do on your own time. So what I cover in the class is not a exhaustive, study. It's just a summary, the main points. Many points that are important may not be covered, but you cover them in your reading and you cover them in the homework, because in class time is limited. So we have to cover one thing but skip other things. That's just the nature, because we have limited time. So with us also we should have us Rashmi Mataji. She has completed Bhakti Shastri. She just finished it like 2 days ago. So she has offered to help all of you navigate the course. There's so many things like, okay, where's the homework? How do you do this? And also once in a while, and it's up to her how that happens, facilitate a study group so that you can learn the verses. There's also a set of verses that go along with each chapter that we memorize, and get an impetus to complete the homework, because there's a tendency to lag behind in the homework. So in doing it in a group is very, very potent. Some of you live in certain areas where you have devotees, so you can make your own individual groups to study it together. Let's do the homework together. This is like, you choose an hour, Monday through Saturday, Sunday, an hour that will meet this 1 hour, and we'll do the homework together. And it's a very enjoyable way to do this study. And others of you may want to do it alone. Some like to study it alone. But whatever it may be, the idea is that we absorb our consciousness in reading this wonderful literature. And when I took Bhakti Shastri, I remember it was the best time in my spiritual life, because I took it in a full-time format, where for 4 months we did nothing else other than this Bhakti Shastri course. So we had daily classes, 4 hours a day for 3 months, maybe 3 months. And we covered all 4 books. And it was such an immersion experience. And many wonderful things happen. your spiritual life moves forward. You may find your spiritual master. You may become more enthusiastic in your services, whatever you're doing for Krishna. So like this. So Rashmi Mataji is also there to answer questions for you. Sometimes I'm busy, like someone asks something and they need, where is this homework, like this. So she is there to guide you in many of those aspects. So let us begin now. We start the reading of the Gita by always saying one prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so I'll share the slides. Or actually, let's read first the Gita Mahatmya, and then I'll share the slides. It'll be easier. So at the end of the introduction, all of you should read in your own time. Prabhupada has these verses from the Gita Mahatmya, which are very beautiful. And the Gita Mahatmya tells the glories of Gita. That's the meaning, Mahatmya, right? That's the glories of the Gita. So I just want to read these verses for you, and then we will start covering, actually, today we start with the introduction to the Gita. So, Prabhupada says at the end, in conclusion, Bhagavad Gita is a transcendental literature which one should read very carefully. Gita Shastram idam punyam ya patet prayata puman. If one properly follows the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, one can be freed from all the miseries and anxieties of life. Bhaya shokadi varjita. One will be freed from all fears in this life, and one's next life will be spiritual. Just like we were saying, right? This is what we are saying. Prabhupada is confirming. One will be freed from all miseries and anxieties of life and from all fears in this life. And one's next life will be spiritual. So Gita can actually change the lines of our hand. Right? They can turn around our life. It can change the trajectory of our life into something very auspicious. There's also a further advantage. Gita dhyayana shilasya pranayama parasya cha naiva santi hi papani purva janma kritani cha. If one reads Bhagavad Gita very sincerely and with all seriousness, then by the grace of the Lord, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. Gita Mahatmya 2. The Lord says very loudly in the last portion of Bhagavad Gita 1866, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Thus the Lord takes all responsibility for one who surrenders unto him, and he identifies such a person against all reactions, and he indemnifies such a person against all reactions of sins. So Prabhupada here is telling us that Gita Mahatmya is saying that by the grace of Gita, all your sins go away. All the reactions of past misdeeds go away. And then someone may ask, well, what is the proof? And then Prabhupada is saying the proof is 1866, that Krishna's telling in the Gita that I remove all your sinful reactions. So by reading the Gita and then applying it, or even just by reading it, that is in some ways application also. Krishna says at the end, one who reads the Gita worships me with his intelligence. So it's also reading, but it's also worship. It's worship of Krishna. By doing that, one's sinful reactions go away. Mala nirmochanam pumsam jalasnanam dine dine Sakrit Gitamritam snanam sansara malanashanam. Such beautiful verses. One may cleanse himself daily by taking a bath in water. But if one takes a bath even once in the sacred Ganges water of Bhagavad Gita, for him the dirt of material life is altogether vanquished. Gita Mahatmya 3. Gita Sugita Kartavya Kimanyai Shastra Vistarai Ya Swayam Padmanabhasya Mukta Padmad Vinishrita. Because Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one need not read any other Vedic literature. One need only attentively and regularly hear and read Bhagavad Gita. In the present age, people are so absorbed in mundane activities that it is not possible for them to read all the Vedic literatures. But this is not necessary. This one book, Bhagavad Gita, will suffice because it is the essence of all Vedic literatures, and especially because it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gita Mahatmya 4. So, here, Prabhupada is assuring us, he is assuring us that one need not read any other Vedic literature. Simply by attentively and regularly, that's the two key words here, attentively and regularly, hearing and reading Bhagavad Gita, one can become free from mundane activities and attain the Supreme Lord. And the devotees, they have faith in the words of Krishna and the spiritual master. So Prabhupada has said this. So therefore, the devotees have no doubt that this is fully the case. And that's why many devotees in our movement have memorized all 700 verses of the Gita. And many of them have read the Gita 30 or 40 times, cover to cover. There's one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, His Grace Prithu Prabhu, and he read the Bhagavad Gita something like 30 times. and then when he would preach Krishna consciousness, when he would give classes or something, people would just become devotees just by hearing him. And he was mentioning that when you read it 30 times, then you live it, you breathe it, you think it, it's just like it becomes part of you. So we may feel that, I've already read it, so many times, I've been reading it off and on here and there. But we take inspiration from these devotees that if we read it attentively and regularly, our consciousness becomes transformed. And we cannot do it enough times. The more we do it, the deeper we enter into it, because it is nectar. Since we're starting, many of you are starting, I can mention this also, that when I finished Bhakti Shastri, then I went to my spiritual master and I said, I completed Bhakti Shastri. And then he looked at me and he said, how many times? And then I understood that this was just the start. The first time is when you kind of, you get the outline, and then one has to do it over and over again. And this is true about Srila Prabhupada's books, that every time when we read it, we read it at a deeper level. So we read it the first time, and it's like, wow, okay, this is the information, this is what he's saying. But then we read it a second time, it's like so deep, and then the third time, and every reading is different. It's just like a spiral, right? A spiral goes over the same thing, same circle, but each time it's deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So it said that Lord Brahma read the Vedas 3 times. So at least 3 times one has to read something to actually understand it. So it said that we should read Prabhupada's books cover to cover, all of his books 3 times. And then maybe we can start reading other books of other acharyas and other like that. Of course, we can read other books also, but it's just a way, of understanding that um, how spiritual knowledge works, that to really go deep into it, one has to um, read it regularly and attentively. And then more nectar comes out. So it's not a chore. It's not that we have to read it again or whatever. We want to. That's the nature of spiritual life. And then Bharatamrita sarvasvam Vishnu Vaktrad Vinishritam Gita Gangodakam Pitva Punar Janmana Vidyate. One who drinks the water of the Ganges attains salvation. So what to speak of one who drinks the nectar of Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is the essential nectar of the Mahabharata, and it is spoken by Lord Krishna himself, the original Vishnu. So I think, Prabhupada explains here that the Ganges comes out of the feet of the Lord. It actually emanates from the toes of the Lord, the toenail. And it is so auspicious that if you drink it, you get salvation. The Gita comes out of the mouth of the Lord. So if you hear the Gita, how auspicious it must be. It enlivens the entire self. It brings us to the spiritual platform, the transcendental platform. Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopala nandana partho vatsu sudhir bhokta dugdham gitamritam mahat. This Gita Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, the essence of all the Upanishads, is just like a cow. And Lord Krishna, who is famous as a cowherd boy, is milking this cow. Arjuna is just like a calf. And learned scholars and pure devotees are to drink the nectarian milk of Bhagavad Gita. So just like a calf drinks the milk of a cow, but she leaves both the cow and the calf, they leave most of the milk for others. In the same way, Krishna is giving this nectarian milk in the form of Gita. Arjuna, he's the one pulling it out with his questions. Every chapter starts with a question. He's just like the calf. It's the calf's sucking on the udder that makes the milk of the cow come out. And Arjuna is relishing this nectar of the Gita, but then he's leaving most of it for us due to his compassion as a great Vaishnava. He is leaving it for the great scholars and pure devotees to drink the nectarian milk. Actually, only the pure devotees can relish Bhagavad Gita. So it's not that even he's leaving it, that all of us are relishing the rest of it. The pure devotees are relishing the Bhagavad Gita. And then Srila Prabhupada, is now writing his purports and allowing us to relish the drops of milk that he is giving to us. So in this way, that same Gita is being passed to us by the mercy of Arjuna and the pure devotees, who are the actual learned scholars. They are actually the ones who understand the Bhagavad Gita. And we are getting this chance by their mercy to relish these drops of nectar. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva Eko Mantras Tasya Namani Yani Karmapyekam Tasya Devasya Seva. In the present day, people are very much eager to have one scripture, one God, one religion, and one occupation. Therefore, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putram Gitam. Let there be one scripture only. One common scripture for the whole world, Bhagavad Gita. Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva. Let there be one God for the whole world, Sri Krishna. Eko Mantrasya Tasya Namani. And one hymn, one mantra, one prayer, the chanting of his name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Karma pyekam tasya devasya seva, and let there be one work only, the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada is very non-sectarian. Yet here we see it's one of the few places where he's very focused. This is also non-sectarian, but he's just like cutting through all the hodgepodge and saying, just focus, this is it. So, of course, Prabhupada is saying, let there be one scripture, yet he himself translated the Bhagavatam and so many books, because they're all Gita, right? They're all expansions of the Gita. But if they're expansions of the Gita, then so how much we should read the Gita, right? So the last thing here, Prabhupada, is showing the authority of this particular translation of the Gita by providing us with the entire disciplic succession, all the way from Krishna to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, that this knowledge and the correct understanding of the Gita has been passed from master to disciple, from generations all the way from Krishna. And it's being received. And similarly, it's being passed to us in the disciplic succession. And this is why, as important as the Gita is there, even maybe more important or as important are the Srila Prabhupada's purports. Because that's the parampara part, that unless we understand it from the lips of a pure devotee, we will miss the point. And Prabhupada mentioned this, that there are over 700 translations of the Bhagavad Gita, but he says not a single one of them has made a devotee of Krishna. So Prabhupada's translation has given us this devotion. And the moment Prabhupada published his translation, thousands of devotees arose as a result of reading this. And that thousands turns now into millions. So this is the benediction of the Gita. Okay, so today there'll be some stories. So Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, this chapter is setting the scene. And it's important to understand a little bit of the history of the Mahabharata, which, given our audience, most of you know. Some nice graphics there you can see. So it's important to understand the history of the Mahabharata in order to understand the instruction of Krishna to Arjuna and the immense importance of this dialogue also, and of course for eternity, but also for that time, for that moment. And we mentioned, Prabhupada was mentioning how the Gita is part of the Mahabharata. So this is something that people sometimes miss, that the Gita is part of the Mahabharata. So there's an entire history of the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata has 100,000 verses, which means 200,000 lines. It's written in Sanskrit. Scholars today say that it's composed anywhere in this time period. But we know that Vyasadeva wrote this Mahabharata 5,000 years ago and gave it to us. It's the longest epic and poem in the world. It's roughly 10 times the length of the Iliad and Odyssey combined. These are two great epics of the European world, and it's 10 times. So it's very much the greatest epic of all time, the Mahabharata. It has 100,000 verses, and only 700 of those verses are the Bhagavad Gita. And so how much the Gita is the essence. So here we find the painting of the 5 Pandavas, the glorious sons of Kunti, who are pure devotees of the Lord. And anyone can say what's happening here?
I think they are going for the moksha or something.
Yes, that is possible also. That is also there because we see the dog there, right? That gives it away. But actually, some people say that this painting, because this is showing fire, this red here is fire. So this is them also can it can suggest that this is Kunti and they're escaping the fire of the house of lack. So Duryodhana tried to kill them in many different ways. This is the challenge in the lives of devotees. The devotees' lives are never easy. Krishna gives so many tests that they need to pass. And so these Pandavas, they are running away from the house of lack, walking away from it, and Kunti is also there. And Duryodhana also tried to kill them by poisoning Bhima. He tried to disrobe Draupadi. He arranged this gambling match to steal away all the wealth of the Pandava brothers. Right here we see Yudhishthira and Shakuni, and he cheated them from their entire kingdom. And in doing so, he did the most heinous of all offenses, which was he tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly. And by doing this, he would have destroyed, uh, even if they won back the kingdom, if he was successful, they could have never recovered from it. And this is why Krishna, who always saves his devotees, protected Draupadi from this ultimate, and the Pandavas from this ultimate dishonor, where they were unable to do that. They were unsuccessful in doing that. Here we see Draupadi and the Pandavas, we see their devotion, how she is calling out to Govinda, and Krishna comes and makes the sari unlimited. So Duryodhana had done all the 6 sins of the 6 aggressors. Right? He had tried to feed poison. There's 6 aggressors that deserve to be killed. One who administers poison to someone else, uh, you know, to kill them unjustly should be killed. One who sets fire to someone's home should be killed. One who attacks with deadly weapons should be killed. One who kidnaps another's wife should be killed. And like this, there's 6 aggressors. So Duryodhana had done all 6, one after the other. So there is no question that according to the scriptures, according to Dharma, he should be killed. Yet the Pandavas, just to keep peace, kept trying to work out something with him. Okay, let's split the kingdom. Okay, if that doesn't work, let's do something else. So they agreed to the second gambling match, agreed to Dhritarashtra's word, just because they were so, Yudhishthira's dharma personified. He was so obedient to the king and to his elders like Dhritarashtra. He knew that Dhritarashtra is taking advantage of him by again calling him for a match in which Shakuni is playing again. But he still went. He said, anyway, it will avert the war. And it is his instruction. He is the king, so I have to do it. So he went and played. He lost it. And then he was exiled with his brothers and wife Draupadi to the forest for 13 years. And he stayed in that forest for 13 years. Right? They're showing the example. How, you see, this is important also. We say, well, why are we spending time on this? Let's get into the Gita. But it's important to understand the quality of Arjuna. Who was Arjuna? Right? He was not a a uh, um, a a uh, a hungry person for wealth, for power, for prestige. Arjuna was not out there looking for his rights, for his thing. He was completely dedicated to the Lord, to the sages, the brahmanas, to his elders, to his duties, and he had no desire for any kingdom. But they were just doing their duty. They were warriors. They had to uphold dharma. They had to fulfill Krishna's instruction. So for 13 years, they stay in the forest. And Krishna tells them that you use this time to prepare. Right? You use this time to prepare. So sometimes we are in a hurry to perform. But what Krishna and the Pandavas teach us through this is that the time to prepare is actually a very valuable time. Just like the example that's given is that when we shoot an arrow, like we use a bow and arrow to shoot, then um, then the farther we pull the string back, the more we take the time to pull the string back, which seemed to be going in the opposite direction. When we leave it, then the farther the arrow goes, right? So if you have a bow and arrow, you just go a little bit back, then go a little far. If you go really back, it goes really far. So in the same way, the devotees, they prepare for their service to Krishna, so that when the service is there, then they are ready. We see Prabhupada's example on this. Prabhupada, very much like the Pandavas, he receives the instruction from his spiritual master: if you ever have time and money, go to the West and print books. And he received this instruction, and he could have fulfilled it the next day. He was not attached. He was such a great soul. But then we read the first volume, Lifetime in Preparation. Prabhupada prepared. And it's not, preparation doesn't mean, okay, it's a boring life, we're just going to wait until it comes. He would read, as a householder, it said that he would read Srimad Bhagavatam 4 hours a day. And Prabhupada later, he said in one conversation, he says that this is why I'm able to translate Bhagavatam. Of course, he was able to do it because he's a Satyavesh avatar. But he was showing the example for us that because I prepared. One place he says, I chanted for 40 years and then I perfected my chanting. Of course, his chanting was perfect from day one, but he was showing that he was preparing actively. He was very busy in preparation. He was very busy in serving the instruction of his spiritual master by preparing for it. And every day he said, every day I would think, should I get the ticket to go to the West? Every day he never forgot the instruction. In the same way, the Pandavas, Krishna tells them, you use these 13 years and become ready. So Arjuna, he does deep meditation. He does great meditation. He pleases Lord Shiva. He gets all the divine weapons, without which he could not have won the battle, because Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya, Karna had these divine weapons, and he did not. They were actually greater warriors until Arjuna did his austerities. Yudhishthira was practicing austerities in dharma. Bhima was increasing his strength by practicing his club. And Nakula Sahadev similarly were doing also their preparations. So they knew that the war was going to come because Krishna told them, and they were preparing for that moment. Even in the battle, even in the forest, Duryodhana wouldn't leave them in peace. And he sent Durvasa Muni with 80,000 sages to come and eat at their home, which was a little hermitage. And he sends Durvasa Muni particularly after Draupadi had eaten. Why did he send Durvasa Muni there after Draupadi had eaten? Anyone want to share?
Because then there would be no food left and then he would curse them.
Yes, and why would there be no food left? She could have cooked more.
Can I answer?
Yes.
They ate only one time in a day, I think.
Yes, but they could have cooked again for Durvasa Muni.
No,
They had a
Draupadi had
special,
the
they had a special
Draupadi
vessel, right?
Draupadi had the boon, right? One,
Yes.
she can cook
Akshay Patra.
unlimited food. Yes. Yeah, she had Akshay Patra.
She had a special vessel that could produce unlimited amounts of food. So Durvasa Muni with his 80,000 sages was no problem. But it was no problem only until she had eaten. So she would take her meal by lunchtime. But once she had eaten, that pot would not produce anything more on that day. And so Duryodhana sent Durvasa Muni with the 80,000 sages, sent them in the evening, towards later in the day, after she had eaten, because then the pot would not produce anything. So this was a very great calamity, because The sage's curse is, you're pretty much finished. All of their, Duryodhana would have been victorious if Durvasa Muni had cursed the Pandavas. So at that time, they start to pray to Lord Krishna, please protect us. Whenever there was difficulty, they would deeply pray to Krishna. Krishna, you are my protector. Please protect me. And Krishna came at that moment, just was giving them a visit. And he comes in the hermitage. And the first question he says, the first thing he says, I'm actually very hungry. Do you have any food? So then the Pandavas think, oh, look at our fate. First, the sage with 80,000 disciples is waiting outside for food. We don't know where to bring it from. Now the Supreme Lord comes to our home and asks for food. Now what will we do? Now we're really finished. So they say, we have no food, our Lord. So he says, no, show me that pot of Draupadi. He says, I already ate. There's nothing there. He says, show me. And then she brings the pot. At the bottom of the pot, there's one grain of rice that's stuck there. Krishna takes that grain of rice and he puts it in his mouth. And when he puts it in his mouth, then he feels fully satisfied by the devotion of Draupadi and the Pandavas. Once he feels fully satisfied, then he says, this was the most delicious meal. And when he feels fully satisfied, then all the sages, somehow their bellies are completely full. They're like, oh my gosh, I think we got some gas in our stomach. We can't eat a single morsel. Then they start to think among themselves. At that time, they had gone for their bath. Upon Yudhishthira's request that you bathe and you come back, he said, it'll give me some time to think. So after bathing, they thought, they're probably cooking a feast there. And we can't eat a morsel of food. We're feeling so full. We're bloating right now. And if we go back after they've cooked all this food and we don't eat the food, then their brother Bhima, he will pulverize us. He will not forgive us. A feast for 80,000 people. We were just cooking a feast for like 200 people. It's like, you have 200 people, you have like pots and pots of full of, rice and sabji. 80,000 people, I mean, you have mountains. So they have all that preparation. We won't be able to eat anything. They're going to be seriously angry. So let's run away from here. So they all went away. Then we know the test. Maharaj, the Pandavas were tested by Dharma by Yamaraj in the form of a yaksha, who first comes as a crane. And in this pastime, the Pandavas see that Maharaj Yudhishthira is actually the greatest among all of them. That they were not following him just out of even social custom, but they were following him because he was the most self-controlled, tolerant, and fixed in dharma. I won't go in detail. We have very limited time. All four of the Pandava brothers fail the test. The crane tells them that this is my lake. You cannot drink this water without my permission. And my permission will come after you answer my questions. But the Pandavas were so thirsty. In the forest, you can get very thirsty, walking and walking, no water, that they said, first we will drink water. They could not control their thirst. And they drank the water in spite of the crane's objection, to whom the lake belonged, and therefore they died. And Maharaj Yudhishthira, he, though he was equally thirsty, could control his thirst. And he answered all the questions of the crane. And because he answered them successfully, he was very happy. Being Yamaraj himself, he brought all of his brothers back to life. And the most famous of the questions that he asks Maharaj Yudhishthira is, what is the most amazing thing in this world? And Maharaj Yudhishthira to this responds, the most amazing thing in this world is that every single one of us sees so many people die. Our grandparents, our great-grandparents, maybe even our parents, our friends, our brothers, our sisters, all the people around us. At a certain point, we know will leave this world, they will die. But the most amazing thing is every person thinks that they themselves will be eternal. And that's how we lead our life. That, I'll be eternal, so let's start a big business and make millions of dollars. Why? So that I can enjoy it for 5 years. So we act as though we will be eternal. That is the most amazing thing. So after all of these tests, finally they come back. They ask their kingdom, rightfully, because they completed what was the agreement. They'll be in the forest for 13 years. Upon completion, if they're successful, they will get their half of the kingdom back. They ask for that back, but Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, they say, nope, no way, we will not give that back. And then, as a result of that, Krishna then becomes the messenger of the Pandavas. The Lord himself becomes the messenger, the peacemaker for his devotee. He goes to Duryodhana and he says, just give them 5 villages. That is their rightful claim. They are kings. They must lead something. So you take both sides of the kingdom, Indraprastha and Hastinapur, but just give them 5 villages. And Duryodhana says the famous line, I will not give land, even that much that can fit on the head of a needle. Right? So that is what he says. So then Krishna says that, okay, now you can fight. So this is actually one of the themes in ethics is just war ethics, right? So, and in just war is just, they say, if you've exhausted all possibilities, other possibilities first. So Krishna is showing by his example, through logic, through flattery, through through pressure, through so many ways, he is trying to avoid the battle. And Duryodhana has done all 6 of the sins that the aggressor can do, and he's been ruthless, a tyrant to the Pandavas. And he's done everything to try to do the battle. And only then does Krishna say, okay, now you can fight. And only then do Maharaj Yudhishthira and the Pandavas, they feel also that we will fight. It is now our rightful claim. And so they come to the arena, and Krishna and Arjuna are sitting there between the 2 armies. Krishna speaking to Arjuna, Arjuna speaking to Krishna. And they are conversing. And as they're conversing, Arjun, he again gets doubts that should I indeed fight this battle? And as you will see, this again is showing Arjuna's greatness. It's not actually showing his weakness, it's showing his greatness, that though he is now, after being in the forest and preparing and receiving all the celestial weapons, I mean, literally no one had those weapons that he had, some of those weapons, because he received them directly from Lord Shiva. After having all of that, I mean, especially when you have power, you're ready to fight, right? If you're a weakling, you might be afraid, but he's so powerful. In spite of that, he says, why should I fight? What is there to gain from this battle? Why should I not be compassionate? And Prabhupada says this is his qualification to hear Bhagavad Gita. That he's so soft-hearted, he is so unambitious, he's so devoted to Krishna, that he, even in spite of being there ordered by the Lord, he's saying, I don't care to fight. So then the Gita starts and Krishna gives him the reason why he should fight, and that's the whole Gita. And that Bhagavad Gita is being shared to us through the lips of Sanjay. Sanjay has a television station within his heart, and he is, reporting live every single word that Krishna and Arjuna are saying to Dhritarashtra, who is very eagerly hearing the Bhagavad Gita. And as a result, he also benefits because of this. Though all of his sinful activities, at the end, Dhritarashtra is able to go to the forest by Vidura's mercy and attain the highest perfection. We see that in the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna loves his devotees so much that he breaks his vow not to pick up a weapon, just to protect his devotee. And this is the ultimate message of the Bhagavad Gita. And at the end, we see that the Pandavas and Krishna, they meet a great devotee, the greatest devotee on the other side, Bhishma Dev, who is leaving his body on a bed of arrows. So, why is Mahabharata important? To understand how much the Pandavas suffered, how devoted they are to Krishna, how exalted Arjuna, the listener of the Gita, is as well, and how Krishna's request for them to fight was not something whimsical, but it was so justified, necessary, and out of love for his devotee. And their decision to fight was out of their dharma, not out of selfishness, and their love for Krishna. So, Prabhupada writes in terms of the Mahabharata, and this ends the introduction to the Mahabharata, to the Bhagavad Gita. Somebody was criticizing me that Swamiji, you are introducing this Hare Krishna movement. People are becoming cowardly. They simply chant Hare Krishna. So I replied that you will see the power of the Hare Krishna movement in due course of time. Because there were two battles in India, the battle between Ravana and Rama, Rama, Ravana, the battle of Ramayan, and another battle was the battle of Kurukshetra. And in these two battles, the hero was a Vaishnava and Vishnu. Right? So then Prabhupada continues. So Vaishnavas do not simply chant Hare Krishna. So Vaishnavas do not simply chant Hare Krishna. Oh, I thought Prabhupada said just chant Hare Krishna. If there's a need, they can fight under the guidance of Vishnu and become victorious. Out of the 26 qualifications, one qualification is Daksha, expert. If there's a need for fighting, they can fight very expertly. That is also needed. Krishna consciousness does not mean one-sided. Once again, Krishna consciousness does not mean one-sided. Krishna is all-pervading. The Krishna consciousness movement also should be all-pervading. It should touch everything, even politics, sociology, everything, if required. So we all have a very grave and important task in front of us, that we must share this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world, in all spheres of the world. Right? There's no shortage of service for anyone. There's the sphere of politics, sociology. One can share Krishna consciousness with the soldiers. There's some devotees who are enrolled in the army, and they're devotees. And when they go to the barracks or when they have their trainings, they share Bhagavad Gita with them. Parthasarathi Prabhu is one example. He was an American fighting in Afghanistan, and he made many devotees, like full devotees, they're shaved devotees, with tilak on, in the army. He would preach there, they're in the war, so he'd preach Bhagavad Gita. This is Krishna, Arjuna, and Krishna's telling Arjuna, you should fight. So, this is our book. But what's the consciousness in which we should fight? And he would teach them Bhagavad Gita. So nice, right? So this is the introduction. Let's just get started on chapter 1. We probably won't finish it. And chapter 1 now begins from the point where Krishna and Arjuna, after the whole Mahabharata, have arrived on the battlefield. Arjuna is standing on one side. Arjuna is standing on the chariot with Krishna, the charioteer, on one side. And on the other side of the Kauravas, he's in the front line, not way in the back. And after looking over the armies, both sides of the armies, he gets doubt. Arjun Vishad, right? Vishada Yoga. He gets the doubt that how can I fight this battle? In the Gita's beginning chapter, we are presented with the circumstances that lead Arjuna to an interest in spiritual philosophy. So we see on many occasions that it is specifically reverses in life that lead us to spiritual life. When these reversals come in our life, then they are Krishna's blessing because they make us go deeper in spiritual life. And this chapter is setting the scene. So all the different warriors on both sides are shown here. So on the Pandava side, you have Bhima, Arjuna, Yudhana, Virata, Drupada, the son of Drupada, Drishtadyumna, Yudhamanyu, Uttamoja, son of Saurabha, the sons of Draupadi. And the other side, you have Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, Dronacharya, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, the son of Somadatta called Bhurishava, Jayadratha, Kritavarma, and Shalya. So on this other side, we also see that there's many good people. That's the interesting part. There's almost as many good people as there's bad people on the other side. Especially Bhishma Dev, especially Dronacharya, especially Kripacharya. These are, Bhishma Dev is a pure devotee. Dronacharya and Kripacharya are powerful brahmanas who worship the Lord. And they are on the wrong side. And Prabhupada writes in one place, he says that Krishna was showing through the Bhagavad Gita that even if one is the son of the Ganges, Bhishma, even if one is a demigod, if one is on the wrong side, if one is averse to Krishna, they cannot be victorious. Arjuna was like a small fish in comparison to these sharks. These people, not only were they very powerful and spiritually realized, but they're very experienced. They're older. They had all the knowledge of Dronacharya is Arjuna's teacher. This is one of the problems Arjuna has in fighting. He's my teacher standing on the other side. And Dronacharya, he's the one who taught Arjuna. So he even knows how Arjuna fights and thinks. So Arjuna is a small fish compared to these sharks. And but Arjuna tells Krishna, Prabhupada says that none of them could stand in front of Arjuna when Krishna was standing next to him. So when Krishna was by his side, then no one could stand in front of Arjuna. Otherwise, they could. They would have overpowered him. But because Krishna is on his chariot, no one could touch him. And this is actually one of the key points, that just the fact that Krishna is the charioteer of Arjuna is so extraordinary. It shows Krishna's quality of Bhakta Vatsala. And not even just the teaching, but just the very setting itself brings to the devotees great ecstasy. That how Krishna is taking the humble role of the charioteer and he's glorifying his devotee Arjuna. And it's a very humble role, Prabhupada explains, because in the war, there's so much noise. The warrior does not give verbal instructions to the charioteer. His hands are busy in fighting. The way they would direct the charioteer to go left or right was by kicking the body of the charioteer on the left or right side. They would tap them with their feet. Go left, go right, like this. So by accepting this role, Arjuna was touching Krishna's body with his shoes on the left and right side. He was kicking him. And Krishna was taking great pleasure in this. So when Lord Chaitanya is traveling throughout India, he comes across this Brahmana, illiterate person, not Brahman, this illiterate devotee who had received the instruction from a spiritual master to read the Bhagavad Gita every day. He didn't know how to read, but he was sitting with the Gita and simply crying. And Lord Chaitanya asks him, why you are crying? He says, I am crying, just thinking how the Supreme Lord Krishna has become the humble charioteer of Arjuna. And that is bringing tears to my eyes. So in this chapter, the majority of the chapter, a good portion of the chapter, is actually the words of Duryodhana, who has come to Dronacharya, and he is speaking very eloquently. Some versions of the Mahabharata say that Bhishmadev was the first commander. But my understanding is that according to the Bhagavad Gita, Dronacharya is the first commander, because he is going to the commander-in-chief, and Duryodhana is giving the full, setup. And Prabhupada says he's a very slick demon, very intelligent demon. So he is flattering him, and he's trying to get him to get his full support by glorifying them. Because the warriors, they like honor, right? So he says, there are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. So in his pride, Duryodhana is also telling the future, it is said, that that I am actually going to give up, make these people give up their lives for me, meaning that he's making a prediction that they will lose the battle, and Krishna, Arjuna, and the Pandavas, they will be victorious, they will be successful. Krishna wanted to gather all the demonic powers on that battlefield of Kurukshetra and kill them, Prabhupada writes. That was his plan. The fight was who would be the king, Maharaj Yudhishthira or Duryodhana. So Krishna decided Duryodhana is unfit, Maharaj Yudhishthira is fit. This was Krishna's desire. Therefore the fight, Kurukshetra. Krishna wanted to wipe out all unwanted demons from the face of the world and enthrone Maharaj Yudhishthira, because he was the exact representative of Krishna. Anyone who was killed, who died in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in the presence of Krishna, they all attained their original constitutional position, spiritual form. They all went back to go home, back to Godhead, everyone. Therefore, Krishna is absolute. Either he's killing or he's protecting. It is all the same. So one thing about Mahabharata always disturbed me, and I know it disturbs almost everyone, especially those who have watched the multi-volume, very wonderful Mahabharata series, that how is it that Krishna is there and so many people are dying? And not just the bad people, even the good people, especially Abhimanyu. Someone was just asking me, Abhimanyu, he's Krishna's own son, his sister's son, and he's killed in such a ruthless way. And everyone cries when they see that section. So how is it this is happening? And here Prabhupada is explaining that this answered the question. This is so wonderful that he's saying everyone who died, this is why Krishna is so wonderful. And if Krishna fights, it's okay, but we should avoid, because in Krishna's presence, whoever died, they all attained Krishna. Not just, they became, heavenly things, when you die fighting for a country, you go to heaven. But no, they attained their original constitutional position in their spiritual world. Anyone, he said, who was killed, who died in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in the presence of Krishna. Krishna was always present there when they were fighting. So they all got that benediction of going back to the spiritual world. And this is why whatever Krishna does is all auspicious. It's the most wonderful. Okay, we have read this. And so this Gita, again, we're just finishing the introduction today. We'll do chapter 1 next time. We'll go deeply into it. It has 5 topics. And in the introduction, Prabhupada talks about these 5 topics. He says, the first topic is, who am I? Atma, the soul. So it talks about the Atma, topic number 1. The self. The first question all of us have is, who am I? 2, where am I? It talks about material world or Prakriti. Prakriti, Atma, and Prakriti. What am I doing here? It talks about karma, activities. How long am I here? Kala, time. What is the like? How long am I here? Why do I die? And finally, is there something beyond? And that is God or Ishvara. So these are 5 questions that every person asks. And therefore, the Gita answers these 5 questions. And therefore, these are the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita. That's why Gita gives us all knowledge, because it answers these 5 questions, which are the most fundamental questions. It doesn't matter which religion or which philosophy, they all ask the same questions, but they give different answers. But the questions are the same. So Gita is answering those 5 fundamental questions. So people may ask, by mentioning these great fighters, so this is chapter 1, we're going to see all these fighters. When you read it, it's like people complain actually. They say, I got the Gita, but the first chapter is just names, names, and names. So Prabhupada here is every question he answered. What spiritual progress do we make? We are meant for chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, Maha Mantra. So by chanting the names of these great fighters, what do we gain? But the thing is that Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Muchyate. Whenever there's connection with Krishna, that also becomes Krishna. Whenever there's connection with Krishna, that also becomes Krishna. Prabhupada lecture on Bhagavad Gita 1.4 in London. Okay, so we will stop here. The last slide. Thank you very much, everyone, for your very, very kind attention. And now we have about 15 minutes, 14 minutes for any questions, comments, reflections.
Hare Krishna, Gopal Hari Prabhu.
Hare
Please
Krishna.
accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, Prabhu, this is the second time I'm attending Bhakti Shastri for Bhagavad Gita because last time I couldn't complete my homework.
Mm.
Yeah. So hopefully, Prabhu, I seek your blessings this time to finish my homework because I could do only 6 chapters last time. So hopefully I'll be able to give Bhagavad Gita exam this time. And I didn't want to give any other exam before finishing Bhagavad Gita. As you know, I was just believing that, Prabhupada said that, this is the bachelor, so I didn't want to step into others.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes, and on both points, very nice points. That the challenging part, or the part that requires the effort, is a lot of effort is the homework, right? So you're reminding all of us and all of the others here that we should try to complete the homework. But as you have experience, you did some of them. You get a great sense of accomplishment when you do the homework.
Yes, Prabhu. That's what, it's not that, I cannot just go superficial. That's my, I don't know whether to say that's my strength or drawback or weakness or something. The thing is, I cannot just, to finish my homework, I cannot just jump into the next chapter before finishing what I know I have to read in detail.
Yes.
But it's a different point, even the 6 chapters which I've done, if I open now, it will be like fresh in my mind as I'm reading it for the first time. So I'm just telling this because, whoever is actually motivated to take the exam, that, I feel that, maybe is it common or should I rectify, is there anything else, I need to put up, so that I'll remember what I have studied.
Yes, no, so your question at the end was, is it common?
Is it common, Prabhu? Because, I feel that, I go to the next chapter, I feel that, first chapter, I don't know anything. If I go to the third chapter, I feel, I don't know anything in the second chapter.
Yes, no, and that happens. That happens very often. I feel the same way. It's very common that you're saying. We
Okay.
feel like I don't remember anything. But the fact is we do. We do.
Okay.
So if you do the chapter, you do the homework, then the next time you hear it, you'll be like, ah, yes, yes, yes. It goes in our consciousness. Things will arise in our memory. Yes, you absolutely do. That's and we realize that when we do it a few times. That I used to think nothing goes in my head, and then after a few times, they're like, "Oh no, actually, I'm remembering this. This is making sense." So that's why we mentioned in the beginning the repeatedly hearing, the repeated efforts. And from that, we go very deep.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your efforts and for encouraging all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Champakalata Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanwad pranam. All good,
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu, so much. I joined right on time, starting Bhagavad Gita from today.
Yes. Yes. Yes, Mataji.
Last
You've
few
done it
weeks.
already. Yes.
No, Prabhu, last few weeks I couldn't join, but today I joined and it started. I became so happy that I can join again from today in sequence without any breaks.
Yes.
Complete Bhagavad Gita again with you.
I'm so glad. We really like your association. And you can also help the other students because you're doing it for a second time. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Prabhu, I have a question. I always wonder this the slide you showed, 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita
Mm.
covered. Are they all scattered throughout the Bhagavad Gita or they are in a particular chapters? Like I know second chapter talks completely
Mm.
about the soul, but is it the
Mm.
only second chapter or is it all these 5 topics are distributed throughout?
They are distributed throughout, but certain chapters are focusing more on certain themes. So, obviously, like chapter 2 is focusing more on who am I, right? The soul. Chapter 3 is focusing more on karma, right? Activities. What am I supposed to do, right? Chapter 10 is focusing more on Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, the Lord's opulences, how he manifests himself in this world, right? So different chapters are focusing more on different themes. And that would actually be a nice project for someone to go through and map out that which chapters are dealing mainly with which theme. I think actually devotees have done it, but I don't have it with me. But certain chapters definitely deal more with certain topics. Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Andesh.
Sorry, Prabhu. Where would be the topic of time, Prabhu? Kala?
Time, yeah, there's a whole section on time in the Gita, right? Krishna says, "Time I am, the great destroyer of the 3 worlds."
Isn't it chapter 11, Prabhu?
I believe so. You're right. Yeah, chapter 11, time I am. Krishna talks about time. Yes.
So is that the only place where he talks about time?
No,
Or
he talks about the temporality of the body. So in other ways, he talks about time. He brings it into the discussion. Like, he ties it in. So not separately, maybe, but there's a lot of discussion on time in the Gita. The time of awakening for the self-realized soul is a time for sleeping for those who are not there. So Krishna also talks about how to utilize time.
okay. And nature, Prakriti will be in chapter 13, right, Prabhu? Whole chapter? Kshetra,
Yes.
Kshetragya.
Yes. I was thinking of the different topics. So that's Prakriti. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Prabhu?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Andesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Krishna.
I have first Bhakti Shastri Prabhu, so just seeking your blessings. Also, I have one question. So when you said everybody who died in the battlefield
Hmm.
attained a spiritual world,
Hmm.
but and so comparing the statement to Bhagavatam, like Krishna is like even when demigods are praying or these exalted personalities are praying to Vishnu, they're mentioning that he is in the favor mode of goodness.
Hmm.
If he's in the favor mode of goodness, why are all these demons who are being killed either by Krishna or in the battle of Bhagavad Gita? Like, how are they attaining the spiritual form, even they're in the mode of ignorance? We're just having a hard time.
Yes, nice question. That's because in chapter 8, right, Krishna says, Antakale chamameva smaran mukta kalebram. They may be in the mode of ignorance, but by the presence of Krishna, by seeing Krishna, they are being transformed. They're being uplifted. So when Krishna appears, especially, and he can do it otherwise also, he also gives people the lottery tickets, right? That's called Kripa Siddha, that just by his presence, he liberates them. And he doesn't have to do this always, nor does he do this always. But just because he doesn't do it always, Prabhupada says he reserves the right to be free. So that's called causeless mercy. Right? Krishna gives his causeless mercy. Someone is fortunate that they are able to die in the presence of Krishna. That is their great fortune. Lord Chaitanya would just embrace someone and they would get pure love for Krishna, right? They were so materially absorbed, but he would embrace someone or they would see him and they would begin dancing in ecstasy. And we feel, I have to work so hard. I'm working so hard for my spiritual life, getting up so early in the morning, all of this, not eating this, and still I'm not getting love for Krishna. How unfair this is. I'm doing so many rules and regulations, but still I'm not even getting one iota. And this person, they got pure love for Krishna just by seeing Lord Chaitanya. But that is Krishna's choice. Prabhupada says that someone may win the lottery, but that does not mean that the rest of us don't need to go to work. We go to work knowing that some people do get the lottery. So Krishna can show his mercy by liberating someone. And even that, we see that generally there's some history behind it. That there's some reason that they came in front of Krishna. In their past lives, they did perform some devotional service. So even in most cases, many cases, we see that these were devotees in previous lives. So they made some effort. But in many cases, the effort may be a lot less than what others make. So that is simply Krishna's own free will. And though they're in the mode of ignorance, Krishna liberates them.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes. Shalja Mataji.
Haribol Prabhu.
Shal-
Thank you. This
Good to
is
see you.
wonderful, wonderful class. I am a repeat student as well. Last time I had a huge challenge with the shloka, especially, and I hope I can this year get over that pace. But I'll be so delighted if I do. But more than that, also in addition, I think Bhagavad Gita is such a topic that I would love to just keep learning and rehearing it.
Yes.
So I have a question in regards to that. And sorry, not in regards to repeating it, but in regards to the content. I
Yes.
remember last time we read about the oppressors, and I know you mentioned it even now.
Mm.
So one of the oppressors being one who attacks with deadly weapons, right? So you have a right to kill someone who attacks with deadly weapons.
Yes.
And frankly, this is Kali Yuga. And I don't know if it holds for Kali Yuga because you do see people attacking each other with deadly weapons. So do we have a right to kill someone like that? I mean, it's been on my mind. I don't know. Or is it only Krishna has said it for the Kshatriyas who were actually defending? So I'm just curious about that. How do you reconcile that? Yeah.
So the aggressor, one of the aggressors is to attack with, you can kill someone who is attacking you with deadly weapons.
Right.
So you mentioned how that is for the warriors, but if someone attacks us with a deadly weapon, wouldn't we defend ourselves? Sorry, I muted you. You can unmute yourself.
No worries. Yeah, so like nowadays you do see people, with guns and things. So you're going to protect yourself. Can you go to the extent of killing them is what I was thinking. It's something, one is protecting yourself by defending yourself, but yeah.
Yeah, but well, if they are just holding the weapon, then no. But if they are attacking us with a gun, then obviously we have the right to kill them. If they're attacking us, right? I mean, if they're just carrying the weapon, which I think is what you're getting at, that these days everyone has a weapon with them, we have no right to kill them. If they are being mean to us and they happen to have the weapon with them, maybe we have no right to kill them. But if they're actually attacking us with the deadly weapon, the scripture is saying that yes, we have the right to protect.
That's amazing, because I was getting more to, like, you see mall shootings and you see
Yes.
crazy stuff now. So
Yes.
yes, certainly if they're carrying it, no problem.
Yes.
But if they're attacking,
Yes.
anyhow, this was eye-opening for me when I read it. So
No, that's you're I see where you're coming from. Because just recently in one of my classes where we teach this, we were talking about just war theory, and there's many people who are pacifists, and they say that no, you should not kill someone for any reason. You should not
right.
engage in battle for any reason, and that's why Prabhupada was very clear that yes, Gita is not pacifism. If war, Prabhupada says violence is necessary when all good. Violence is necessary to protect the weak from the strong when all good argument fails. Right? So, very nice sentence, because first, what our duty is to try to reason with the person and stop them.
Mm-hmm.
If we can. I mean, if there's a mass shooter, they're not going to
Mostly
get
it
an
doesn't work.
opportunity. But if someone is trying to attack us, we should. This is what Krishna does, right? He goes as a peace messenger and tries to reason with them. But when that fails, then to protect the weak from the strong, one must fight. So Prabhupada also says that the battle of Kurukshetra happened because of their offense to Draupadi. So she was.
Oh yeah, I do
was,
remember that. Yeah.
faultless. They were abusing her, molesting her, disrobing her, and they had to be punished. And it's not just that Duryodhana got that reaction, but Prabhupada says, the scriptures say that anyone who was sitting there watching and not opposing it had to be killed. And those were all those kings on the other side. They were all sitting there in that assembly. They didn't say a word. They supported, by their silence, they supported Duryodhana, and therefore they deserved punishment. Similarly, the Pandavas also were weak in this situation because they were being taken, advantage of. Yes.
Okay. Now this clarifies so much. Thank you, Prabhu. This was always on my mind, especially nowadays. You see it so much,
Yes.
and I obviously can't fathom taking a life, but but anyhow, there's just a situation where I was thinking about, especially in Kali Yuga, it's so applicable now.
Yes.
It's only getting worse. So thank you so much for clarifying, Prabhu. Much
you.
appreciated. Look forward to the rest of the classes, and learning more and more about Bhagavad Gita. Thank you so
Same
much.
here. Yes.
Haribol. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
For your association, thank you. Rupal Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Wonderful class and wonderful, the way you explain the starting of Bhagavad Gita. My question is, you mentioned that Prabhupada, he did meditation or chanting for 14 years before he went into something. Could you please explain a little bit more on that one?
Yes. So Srila Prabhupada, he received the instruction from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. The first time he received it, he was a college student. Like, he was that young. He met Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And in their first meeting, Prabhupada says, my Guru Maharaj was so exalted. In his first meeting, he could see that Prabhupada is going to do what he's going to do. He could see it all. So in his first meeting, he tells Prabhupada that you please, you know English, you speak to the English language people. But Srila Prabhupada starts his mission when he's almost 70. So for 40 years, Prabhupada was a perfect disciple. He prepares himself for that mission that his spiritual master had given him. And that wasn't him forgetting the instruction. That's the point. It's not that he, was just like, okay, I'll become a family man and enjoy life. And then, at my old age, when I can't, do anything, then I'll become a sadhu and preach. Someone say, well, that's the example Prabhupada gave, He enjoyed his material life during his life. And then at the end, he was lucky. He was successful in fulfilling the instruction as guru. No, for 40 years, he was preparing. He was showing by example that Lord Chaitanya also shows by example in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that purity is the force, right? That he was preparing himself by his own spiritual practice, And by becoming well conversant, he says, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so he would study Bhagavatam 4 hours a day as a householder. He would worship his deities. He would do his worship. He would chant 64 rounds. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur had instructed, especially his householder disciples, to chant 64 rounds because they were living outside of the temple. So he said, you're not engaged in service all the time, so you should chant. So how do we do it? We have to work all day. He said, chant all night. And most of the householders could not do it. And he knew that also. He would say, no need to sleep. You just chant all night. Sleep 2 or 3 hours. But people would sleep only 2 or 3 hours, right? That's because it wasn't that at the age of 70, but even as a householder, he was sleeping only 2 or 3 hours and he was chanting 64 rounds. And then he was, translating, he was learning, whatever he needed to fulfill the mission of his spiritual master, which is specifically to write and print books. So he knew that I need to know these scriptures. How will I write? Of course, all of this is Leela because he was empowered by Krishna. But the point is that he was, the devotees are Acharya, they teach by example. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice question. Ritesh Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for wonderful class, wonderful discussion of Bhagavad Gita. It's always very enlightening to listen and discuss this more as you mentioned in the beginning. Prabhuji, just wanted to share a few things. So one is since there were questions about where can we find a certain topic in Bhagavad Gita. So if you have a paper like a Bhagavad Gita actual book, at the very end there is a very beautiful index, very exhaustive index where you can, it's alphabetically organized, and if someone has any question regarding any topic, let's say mind or Krishna or time or anything, you can just go through the index, find time, and then it has very systematic, okay, time, Krishna in form of time, this verse, and then other references to time, this chapter, this verse. So something that I have found very useful, like if I have some question or some doubt regarding a topic, I just go and open that index and find inspiration. So yeah, I just wanted to share that here.
That's a very good point. Thank you for sharing that, Prabhu.
Yeah.
That's a very good resource.
Also, one more thing that comes to my mind is there is this quote. I don't know who said it, but he says a lot of people know what they should do. Fewer know how they should do, and very few know why they should do. So Bhagavad Gita is there to help us find our the inspiration for why we should do what we are doing.
Yes. Wow, so nice. Yes, so nice. Because how we do something is as important as what we do. And that's the whole teaching of the Gita, that Arjuna is fighting, Duryodhana is fighting. But the consciousness is different, how they're fighting and why they're fighting. One is fighting to please Krishna in devotion, and the other is fighting for themselves. So last thing, Divya Bhakti Mataji left a nice comment in the chat. So that can also inspire us to do the homework. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna. We'll see you all next week, and I'll put the homework in the Bhakti Shastri group. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hare
Krishna, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to
Dandavat
Srila
Pranam.
Prabhupada.
Thank you, sir.